Shares of Adani Group companies surged almost 17% on 5th of December, which is today. The market's exuberance follows a US report by an agency that found accusations made by Hindenburg Research against Gautam Adani-led group, and I quote, irrelevant. International Development Finance Corporation, a US government agency, conducted a due diligence investigation before extending the conglomerate a $533 million loan for a container terminal in Sri Lanka. Now, a senior US official affirmed that the US government considers Hindenburg Research's allegations of corporate fraud against Adani inconsequential. The combined market cap, remember, of Adani Group of companies surpassed 14 lakh crore rupees in the past 1 week. The conglomerate's wealth has surged over 1.83 lakh crore in just a week's time. Adani Group is facing charges of stock price manipulation and accounting fraud leveled by US-based short seller Hindenburg. The Supreme Court, however, has reserved its judgment in the matter. The Supreme Court's judgment on the matter is not out just as yet. Shriram Subramaniam, founder and MD, InGovern Research, on the show with us. Shriram, good afternoon. Thank you for taking time out. I want to first begin by asking you, lots happening as far as Adani Group is concerned, but the latest on a US federal government agency saying that the Hindenburg report is irrelevant for us to finance conglomerates' further plans of expansion has led to a surge in stock prices of Adani Group. The stocks of Adani Group are in double digit, were up by double digit today. What are you making of this report, sir? Irrelevant to them or irrelevant to Adani Group per se?
No, in some sense, both, because at the end of the day, the investment agency itself, the Development Finance Agency, it is giving a loan to a specific port. They would have secured the loan through the assets on the port itself. So from that perspective, they would be very particular on what they use this one for, right? I mean, it won't be specific. The Hindenburg report is inconsequential to their giving the loan and securing asset. But on the other hand, the Hindenburg report was always inconsequential because, as we had pointed out in January 26th, that the Hindenburg report did not contain any new information. It was just a compilation of all the existing information, all the existing stories that were already existing in media, in Adani disclosures, etc. So from that perspective, Hindenburg report was just a compilation. Even 2 weeks ago, or 10 days ago, when the Supreme Court reprimanded, I would think, the petitioners in the Supreme Court case, that they are relying on data points which are sort of facetious. So that's when I would think the Adani Group sort of got a reprieve, in that sense that many of the data points that are being used against the Adani Group are already in the public domain, have been in the public domain, and investors were aware of it. And there was only a political hue and cry based on the Hindenburg report. That was like a big, I would say, a tamasha.
Okay, I have only one thing to ask. When the Supreme Court said that you can't take what Hindenburg says in its report as a gospel of truth, only that much was said, and you can't fault SEBI for any fault in their investigation. The stocks shot up, and now you have another instance of a US-based investment agency which is giving a pocket change in terms of Adani Group, $500 million for a port project in Sri Lanka. They have essentially said that for that $500 million investment, we have this Hindenburg report is irrelevant to them. And looking at that, you have Adani Green stock up 20%. Every stock in Adani is up, in double digits. It's a bit difficult to digest this, isn't it? Because nowhere in any of this is there a clean chit over the Hindenburg report for Adani Group.
No, that's where, it is not a clean chit or otherwise. The Hindenburg report by itself can make allegations. They had a position. So they were very open about their position, which was a short position. So to that extent, probably they have personally benefited from the position itself. And obviously the sentiment on Adani Group stocks had turned negative. And because of all these investigations by SEBI, by Supreme Court, by the expert committee appointed by the Supreme Court, etc. So, and also the political, this one around the Adani Group. But obviously a number of things have played out over these days. One is the Supreme Court seems to have brought it to some closure, though the final order is still due. Two is the SEBI itself has conducted 22 points out of the 24 has been closed out. And this investment authority saying that the Hindenburg report was inconsequential for their investment purpose means that other investors will also view the Adani Group positively. That's what we have also said as InGovern in the past also, that the Adani Group projects per se are cash generating machines. They are in near monopolistic businesses. So from that perspective, there is no fear that these businesses will continue to exist or not continue. If anything, the monopolistic characteristic will ensure that they will increase their prices. They will, in fact, be more profitable in future, etc. And their geographic expansion, moving out of India, getting the Israel port, getting the Colombo port, etc., are obviously much more positive things in favor of Adani Group.
All right. And, I also want to quickly understand what happened in Supreme Court was quite convoluted and perhaps not very clear to a lot of us. Supreme Court has reserved its judgment. SEBI says it has concluded its investigation in the 22 matters out of the 24 matters it was investigating. Supreme Court also in the same breath observed that SEBI must investigate all 24 allegations. What do we know so far? Is the SEBI report with the Supreme Court? Has SEBI officially tendered a report? Is it not out in public yet? Has SEBI given a clean chit to Adani? What do we know so far?
No, I mean, you know as much as I do, that is only the Supreme Court's this one and SEBI's submission to the Supreme Court, that 22 out of the 24 points have been investigated and closed, but the 2 points are pending for want of information from jurisdictions outside of India, from regulators outside of India. So to that extent, the time frame of those two matters is unclear. Two is none of the report by SEBI is in the public domain. Three is that doesn't mean that there is a complete clean chit to the Adani Group. If anything, the investigation is still continuing from a SEBI perspective.
All right. I think that clarifies the matter for us. No clean chit to Adani just as yet. The Supreme Court order in the Adani Hindenburg matter is yet to come out. The Supreme Court has reserved an order. Perhaps that will give us some clarity on whether there's a clean chit, but a lot moving positively for Adani Group of companies, and that is reflecting in their stock performance. Shriram Subramaniam, thank you very much, sir, for taking time out. Thank you for joining us here on News 9.